Madam Chair, if I may, in my response to an earlier question.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, gentleman's time has expired, Chair recognizes Mr. Ruiz from California for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Rogers. I echo my colleagues' concerns about TikTok's impacts on the health and well-being of the American public. As a doctor and the ranking member of the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, I am troubled that TikTok is rife with medically inaccurate information, including dangerous misinformation and the intentional disinformation about COVID-19 and vaccines. TikTok's community guidelines state that the company will remove content or accounts that involve, quote, misleading information that causes significant harm, unquote. However, since the early stages of the pandemic, TikTok has been used as a platform for people pushing misinformation, disinformation, including by those casting doubt on the safety and efficacy of life-saving vaccines. And despite TikTok's pledge to address harmful misinformation, these videos are being viewed millions of times. For example, the Institute for Strategic Dialogue found that a sample of 124 TikTok videos containing vaccine misinformation were viewed 20 million times. And Media Matters found that a sample of 18 videos with COVID-19 misinformation were viewed over 57 million times. Here's another shocking study. The Journal of American Medical Informatics Association found that when searching hashtag, quote, coronavirus on TikTok, almost 30% of the videos that came up contained misinformation. Videos in that sample containing a high level of misinformation were viewed a median of 9.4 million times. Mr. Hsu, why are these dangerous videos falling through the cracks of your company's efforts to enforce its own community guidelines and remove harmful misinformation?
Before I answer that, in my response to an earlier question from Representative Dunn,
Mr. Hsu, you're in my time. Answer my question.
I understand, but if I would like to clarify something.
I'm clarified. I have 5 minutes
Okay.
in my time. You're in my time now. Answer my question.
Yes, any dangerous misinformation we partner with third-party experts to be able to identify and help us with subject domain expertise. And with the expertise that we recognize, we rely on those to develop policies to recognize and remove content that could be.
Your efforts have failed, and they're dangerous. Okay? It's public health risks that you're putting millions of people's lives at risk for not being able to do a better job. And I'm concerned that TikTok's features make it users uniquely vulnerable to the spread of this misinformation. For example, TikTok makes it extremely easy to reuse audio and videos to create content, which allows misinformation to quickly spread through the platform. And TikTok's algorithm to recommend videos means that a user viewing one video containing misinformation can easily result in their quote-unquote For You page becoming filled with videos containing similar misinformation. This is a dangerous feedback loop. So is TikTok taking any action to modify these features so that they no longer facilitate the spread of this misinformation or this misinformation feedback loop?
Congressman, again, like I said, any dangerous mis or disinformation, we work with third parties to recognize that, and it's proactively removed from our platform.
Okay,
so it doesn't need to get into those loops at all.
So I can go back and read you the data. And the Journal of American Medical Informatics, 30% of videos after searching for hashtag coronavirus had misinformation. Almost 1 out of 3, your third party and your company are missing almost 1 out of 3 misinformed videos. So you're telling me what you're doing. I'm telling you the data shows that you are grossly failing at that effort. The other question I have for you is that TikTok is also in Spanish, and Spanish-speaking populations have been specifically targeted to misinformation when it comes to many aspects, especially medical misinformation. And as chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, we reached out to you last Congress on this issue. So what is your intent, or how does your team look like to address Spanish versus English? How many staff do you have focusing on Spanish versus how many staff do you have focusing on English misinformation?
Congressman, like I explained just now, the Spanish-speaking population is very important to our platform. We do have a lot of Spanish-speaking moderators, and we will continue to.
So how many Spanish-speaking staff versus English-speaking staff for misinformation do you have?
I can get back to you on the specifics, but dangerous misinformation is moderated regardless of language.
Not to the degree that it needs to be.
We can continue to work hard.
And when there's misinformation, people base their decisions that oftentimes put them at risk in exposures and their families at risk. And with the coronavirus, especially prior to the vaccines, the risk was their life. Thank you. Yield back.
Madam Chair, I would like to clarify something. In the follow-up question to Representative Dun's question just now, I misunderstood the follow-up about ByteDance spying on behalf of the Chinese government. My answer to that question should be a no, because it came very rapidly. I just want to clarify that.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman, or the chair recognizes the gentleman from Idaho, Mr. Fulcher, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Chu, we've been going a long time here by now, and a lot of questions have been answered, and a lot of them have not been answered. And primary thing I want to do is just share some thoughts of what I've seen, learned today, been exposed to. First of all, I've got to compliment you on having a product that's impressive. It is a very influential tool. It is addictive, and that's what you want users to be exposed to, is something addictive, and it is a data gathering masterpiece. So clearly, it's got the potential to sell products, connected like-minded people with that artificial intelligence capability in a viral fashion, and perhaps spread information quicker, better than anything else that's been developed out there. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not a subscriber, at least a willing subscriber. But probably in that database somewhere is my preferences with colors or foods or who I've spoken to or what I've said or my favorite newspapers. I don't know. But that's available to be sold or given to whomever or whatever. And the whatever is what bothers me. And I'll use myself as an example again. If, for whatever reason, I became a target in this, I became somebody you didn't like, and I know that'd be hard to believe because you got to like me. But let's say you didn't, or a company didn't, or for whatever reason I became an app target. That artificial intelligence algorithm could be shared or spread selectively to a targeted audience that, with negative information that maybe has been paired up with that knowledge in that app to make me look really, really bad. Or to the converse. Same thing could be done to make me look really, really good. Here's the problem. It's someone else or some artificial intelligence algorithm that has inordinate power to subjectively combine strategic data with strategic audiences to shape whatever thoughts and news they want. And I've equipped it, not even knowing it. And that process could apply to anyone or anything. There's the danger. It could be the President of the United States. It could be their kids. It could be a company. It could be a political party. It could be a news outlet. Anything could be targeted for that selective viral spread of just some information. Mr. Chu, this may be genius, but that doesn't make it fair. It doesn't make it good, and it doesn't make it accountable. I wouldn't want my government to have that ability. I wouldn't want a company or a political party or my friend August here or my mother to have that capability. I certainly don't want that to be accessible to anyone in China. Now, there's no question it's got immense value. And as proof of that, you're here. Because this hasn't been a fun day. I know that. Hasn't been a fun day for us either. Artificial intelligence is difficult to manage once it's on auto cruise control, and it's, as we've talked about, nearly impossible to wall off data. I know the idea, I know a little bit about databases, I know a little bit about corruption of those databases. It's very difficult to wall things off. And unfortunately, there's this thing in called human nature where there's some dark components from time to time. There's always a temptation to monetize things or perhaps use some of these tools for nefarious purposes, and they can have absolutely devastating consequences. So, Mr. Chu, I'm going to wrap up my comments and just say that this is so attractive. TikTok poses as a Mr. Rogers neighborhood, but it acts like Big Brother. And that's got to stop. Madam Chair, I yield
Will the
back.
gentleman yield?
Gentleman yields back.
The gentleman yield?
Oh, gentleman yields.
Yield to Mr. Morgan Griffith.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Chu, earlier we had submitted into evidence the TikTok ByteDance and their ties to the Chinese Communist Party report that was filed as an exhibit last week with the Senate in Australia. If you have any comment, I'd like to get it on this paragraph out of their summary. Our research confirms beyond any plausible doubt that TikTok is owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is a PRC company, and ByteDance is subject to all the influence, guidance, and de facto control to which the Chinese Communist Party now subjects all PRC technology companies. We show in this report how the CCP and the PRC state agencies together, the party state, have extended their ties into ByteDance to the point that the company can no longer be accurately described as a private enterprise. You keep calling it a private enterprise, but all the countries in the world are saying it's not a private enterprise, it's part of the Chinese Communist Party. What say you, sir, yes or no? Is it part of the Chinese Communist Party, as everybody thinks, or are you still living in some mystical world?
I disagree with many
So
conclusions.
you're living in the mystical world, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Democrat, right? Yeah. The gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. Craig, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Chair, for yielding. Mr. Chu, I'm probably like a lot of parents who are also members of Congress out here. I know a number of us, when you testified earlier today, you mentioned that the over 35 segment was a growing group of potential users. As if over 35 is old, and I realize that my own children think that I'm ancient, our 4 boys. But like a lot of us up here, we understand that there is some potential good. And of course, many of your influencers are doing what they're doing for all the right reasons. But one thing in your testimony you said a lot was safety. But as a mother and as a member of Congress and as someone who's very concerned about drug use in our country, I was surprised that that didn't come up once in your testimony, no real reference to it here today. You know, I've raised my concerns in general about social media platforms serving as an illegal marketplace for drugs in prior big tech hearings, and I plan to continue that focus during today's hearing. Mr. Chu, a March 8th, 2023 article in the Washington Post detailed the fact that TikTok has made little progress in combating the sale of illegal drugs on your platform. In fact, Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser said that getting drugs on a platform like yours was nearly as convenient as using a phone to order a pizza or call an Uber. That same article mentions that law enforcement agencies have been frustrated by TikTok's lack of competition in the form of data sharing. In my view, TikTok has taken little action in response to this crisis. According to a May 2022 blog post from TikTok, you donated $125,000 or 0.001% of your 22 revenue to an anti-drug effort on your platform in the form of ad credits. You also redirected #drugs, #fentanyl, and other obvious hashtags away from posts selling drugs to a community resources page, as if a teenager looking for drugs is going to look for them at hashtag drugs. Drug dealers have easily worked their way around this, using emojis and slang to communicate that they have drugs for sale. To this day, it is possible for anyone to log into your platform and acquire drugs, and the consequences of that can be fatal. What are you doing to move past these token efforts to prevent teenagers from accessing drugs on your platform? Look, as parents up here today, we may not understand everything about your platform. I'm not a tech guru. Many of us up here may not use exactly the right language, but we know when our kids are at risk, and our kids are at risk on your platform. So what are you going to do to move past these previous token efforts?
Congresswoman, we do take illegal drugs content on our platform very seriously. It violates our guidelines to proactively identify and remove them. And as you pointed out, if anybody searches for any drugs on our platform, we do point them to resources to help them with that. At the same time, we have also taken product changes. Like, for example, we don't allow our under 16 users to use direct messaging. And the reason is because, we wanted to, there was a trade-off here. And we believe that, it will protect these younger users better from getting contacts from people trying to push illegal activities. So we will continue to work on it. Again, no company can be perfect at this. We're not saying we are.
Mr. Chu, I, with all due respect, the no company can be perfect line has been used way too much today. I'm going to reclaim my time. Clearly in the 3+ hours you've been before us today, what you're saying about Project Texas just doesn't pass the smell test. My constituents are concerned that TikTok and the Chinese Communist Party are controlling their data and seeing our own vulnerabilities. If you were an American company, we could look at your 10K, we could see who your shareholders are. The answer you provided earlier today, you'd rather not tell us what your compensation is or how it's derived. Well, no American CEO would like to tell us that, but they have to because they're an American company. So what you're doing down in Texas, it's all well and good, but it is not enough for us to be convinced that our privacy is not at risk. So how can you say that you're protecting American users' privacy with the CCP being so heavily involved with ByteDance? It's not possible. China won't even carry your product. How is it that you can convince us that our privacy is not at risk? And more than that, our kids' privacy is not at risk in this country.
In my opening statement,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Gentlelady's time has expired. We're going to have to continue on. Gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Allen's recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Chu, for being here today. September 2021, the Wall Street Journal published an article titled "How TikTok Serves Up Sex and Drug Videos to Minors." This article gives a chilling depiction of the types of content that TikTok's algorithm is curating for our children. This article claims that your application served an account that was registered as a 13-year-old, quote, videos about drug use. It referenced to cocaine, meth addiction, and promotional videos for online sales of drugs. The algorithm was also found to have delivered countless videos depicting, quote, pornography and other adult content to the device of an account that was registered as a 13-year-old. Could you please explain to the members of this committee and parents across the country why your company deems it acceptable for such inappropriate content to be prominently featured on a child's For You page?
A lot of the content that you mentioned, Congressman, are violative of our own policies, and we don't think they're acceptable, and we will remove them when we identify them. We take this very seriously. I mentioned this. This is an industry-wide challenge. We're investing as much as we can. We don't think it represents the majority of the user's experience on TikTok, but it does happen. Some bad actors try and come in and post some of this content, and we're doing our best to invest as much as we can to remove them.
Well, I would say you're not doing enough. I have 14 grandchildren, Mr. Chu. Do you personally believe that such content is appropriate for minor children to consume?
A lot of the content that you mentioned, like porn, for example, is not allowed on our platform. So no, I do not think they're acceptable for young people to consume.
Earlier this week, the Wall Street Journal published an article titled, quote, TikTok's Chinese partner has another wildly popular app in the U.S. This app is called CapCut. It is a video editing tool to help users go viral on TikTok. While for obvious reasons, most of our attention is focused on TikTok and ByteDance, other companies and their applications are also continuing to exploit the privacy of Americans. TikTok, CapCut, Lark, FaceU, all of these apps are also controlled by ByteDance and pose serious privacy concerns. In 2022, it was reported that TopBuzz, an international version of ByteDance's censored Chinese news app, was used to spread pro-China messages to Americans. When it comes to the data privacy of Americans, we must have a clear set of guidelines to ensure Americans' data is protected and not passed along to unknown third-party actors who could pose a threat to our security. I urge my colleagues to continue to work together to pass a national data privacy bill, not just one out of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, but also through the House of this Congress. It is the only systematic way we can address privacy concerns. Unfortunately, I've been given no reason to believe that TikTok does not pose a threat and cannot be trusted to follow our laws when they conflict with the desires of the Chinese Communist Party. Your firewall that you're talking about, if you had a bad actor in your, what you call your Texas initiative, could get through that firewall and send any information that they wanted to send anywhere directly to the Chinese Communist Party. Would you deny that?
Congressman, this risk that you talk about exists for every company, bad actors.
I'm talking about TikTok, sir.
In fact, the risk is lower for us because these
It is a risk, correct?
the personnel will be vetted. So the
Yeah.
risk is actually lower than most companies in the industry.
Well, that is why we have to do